Okay. Welcome, everyone. If this is your first time to ask us, let me just start at the beginning. You are here to ask us about Native perspectives of the moon. And we have Annette and Jeff and Carl from Native Skywatchers here. And if you'll just wave, there we go. They will be bringing you information about the program that they're working on, and then we'll have time to dialogue about different Native perspectives of the moon. I'm Bonnie Murray. I'm sitting here on the moon. No, actually, I'm sitting here at NASA Langley Research Center in our studio where we are able to put backgrounds behind us. And since we're talking about the moon, that is the background I've chosen today. And near the end of the broadcast, I will be sharing some NASA resources. And hold on a second, I just realized, there we go, now you're seeing me. I will be sharing some NASA resources at the end about how you can get lunar samples, actual pieces of the moon to have in your classroom to share with your students. And Caroline Montgomery, if you'll just wave down at the bottom there, will be telling you about our ESTEEM website and letting you know where to find the recording of this and information about future broadcasts. So that's the overview. A little bit about the Ask Us series. It is a series that has been happening since about 2014. We've covered a variety of different topics over the years, and we're happy to bring these broadcasts to you. The funding source, who we need to thank and be appreciative of, is MUREP, and that's Minority University Research and Education Project within NASA. And specifically under that, the funding is coming to MAINC, MUREP American Indian Alaska Native STEM Education, and ESTEEM is part of that. So I just gave you a huge big hierarchy. Quiz at the end for all the acronyms, because we are NASA after all. But that's an important part to mention because we're delighted to be able to bring these broadcasts to you and thankful to MUREP and the MAINC ESTEEM project to be able to do that. I work on the ESTEEM project with Tori Johnson, who is the MAINC lead at Goddard Space Flight Center, and Caroline Montgomery, who you met down there, also works on the ESTEEM MAINC project with me. So we're here today to bring this information to you. I want to welcome in two audiences. So you see some people in the bottom who've been waving, and let's just all give a little group wave because at this time we want to welcome in those who are watching. We have a number of people who I know are watching online, and you are welcome and encouraged to participate in the broadcast by activating the chat window. So when you clicked on the link to join this event and to be able to watch this broadcast, you should have had the opportunity to sign in with your Gmail. You will need to have a Gmail account to do that. If you need any help with that, you probably can find my email down there, and Caroline Montgomery is copied on several of the emails that you probably got for communications. So email one of us and we will try and get some help to you. But that's how you should be able to send in questions and comments. And Caroline will be monitoring the chat within the Google Hangout. So we'll cut to her several times during the broadcast to be able to hear what comments are coming in from the virtual audience. And then I want to take just a minute to welcome in everyone who is at the bottom, the little pictures that you're seeing. So you already know that the first window over there on the left is Jeff, Annette, and Carl, and you'll be hearing from them in a minute, and then Caroline, and then Diana. So Diana, if you want to unmute for just a second. Diana is with the Geoscience Alliance, and we may hear a little bit more about that later in the broadcast, but just tell us for now what state you're connecting from.
I'm connecting from the state of Minnesota at the University of Minnesota, St. Anthony Falls Laboratory.
Awesome. Very close up there to where Annette and Jeff and Carl are connecting from, because I believe they are at Fond du Lac Tribal Community College, right? Yeah, great. And I know that Diana works with Courtney Kowalczyk up at Fond du Lac, and she is one of our awardees. She has an ESTEEM award at this time, which makes her a very high esteem, I suppose. So we're delighted to have you connecting from there. And I want to give Courtney a thank you because she is the one that connected us to you, Annette and Jeff and Carl. So thank you. And thank you, Diana. Glad you're connected close by there. And let's move over. Elena, do you want to unmute for a second and say hello?
Hi, I'm Elena Sparrow from University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Awesome.
I'm glad to meet you all.
Yes, glad to have you here, Elena. And yes, Elena is from the far north. And I had the opportunity to visit Elena. Elena and I worked together on another project funded by the Science Directorate. And so Elena and I connect on helping teachers to be able to blend cultural knowledge and globe citizen science and help their students become scientists. So I know Elena's excited to get this information and take it into classrooms, right?
Right.
Yes, awesome. Glad to have you here. Alrighty, and then we have Janice. Janice, do you want to say hi? Janice is connecting from Little Priest Tribal College in Nebraska.
Hello, I'm in northeast Nebraska on the Winnebago Indian Reservation, and I teach some different things. I'm also the Dean of STEM Initiatives, so lots of fun stuff going on here.
Awesome, great. Well, I know you'll put this information to good use as well. Glad to have you with us. Alrighty, and then let's move over to Stacy. Hello, Stacy. And Stacy, I think, has some students with her. Stacy is connecting from Turtle Mountain Community College. And that is up in North Dakota. Stacy might be walking around to try and mute and unmute. Do you want to say hi, Stacy?
Hey, everybody. Yep, we're from Turtle Mountain Community College. We're right up next to the Manitoba border.
Yep. Probably pretty chilly up there today, huh?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's, what is it, 10 degrees and it's snowing?
Oh, beautiful. Awesome. Well, glad to have you with us. Yeah, that's great. I just got back from a trip out to Seattle, and I think I brought that Pacific Northwest weather back with me because it's a cold, rainy day here in Hampton, Virginia today. So oh, awesome to have you with us, Stacy. Alrighty, so let's get started with presenting. Thank you, students. I'm glad you're here as well. Awesome. All right, so we're going to switch it right over to Annette and keep things moving along. Annette, I'm sharing your screen, so you are the presenter. I'm going to mute my mic so that I'm not producing any background noise. And I don't remember, do you want us to show the video first or the PowerPoint? Refresh my memory.
We were going to talk for a minute, just introduce ourselves, and then we'll do the PowerPoint and the video towards the end.
Okay, beautiful. So audience, you now have a little preview of what we're about to have. So welcome. Go ahead. I'll turn it over to you, Annette.
Okay. Mitakuye or Yasin to all my relations above and below. My name is Annette Lee. I am a mixed race native, originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm a professor of astronomy at St. Cloud State, and also an Indigenous STEM consultant here at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. I like to say that I'm an astronomer and a visual artist. So we're here today to tell you about our research and programming initiative called Native Skywatchers. And I'll let Carl and Jeff introduce themselves, but we're really excited to be here a part of this event.
I'm Carl Gawboy. I'm a retired Indian Studies professor, and Annette and I were both teaching native astronomy, and we had no idea that the other person existed. This was about 15 years ago. And since then, since I've retired, I've joined Annette's group on Native Skywatchers, and I've been pretty involved ever since. Jeff?
How Nimway Dama Yan Amanungu, Nimway Dama Yayagungu, Dagi Legion Indignitas, and Touch Manan and Dindaba Ajijak. I'm Jeff Tibbetts. I'm from Fond du Lac, the Crane Clan. Happy you all are here. I'm happy to be here today. I work at the Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. I've been working here about 6 years. I'm a former student. I graduated from here many years ago, and that's when I first met Annette and William. And I've known of Carl's existence for many years. He's a well-known artist in this area and beyond, and a lot of his paintings finish many buildings around the area. So he's happy to be here. My part in all this, I guess, is just learning about astronomy and native astronomy, and also rediscovering that in my own community, and my connection with the earth. So it's glad to be here.
Okay. So we're going to switch on to the PowerPoint and show you some visuals. Can everyone see the first slide? Black on the background. Oh, maybe everyone's on mute. Should we just keep talking?
We can see it.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Okay, so this is our intro slide, so we'll just keep going to the next slide. Again, I started Native Skywatchers in 2007, actually, and we really got going in 2009. So this is about a decade of work. And let me also point out that Carl Gawboy has been working on this for, what, 30, 40 years? So he was the original founder, leader here. But my initiative, Native Skywatchers, was officially founded in 2007. We started out primarily with the star knowledge, and then quickly realized that embedded in our Native teaching is the idea of earth and sky. And so it became earth and sky and our part in it, our relationship. So you see now we do the earth and sky. So with anything to do with cultural knowledge, it's really more than any one individual. And also in this day and age when we're recovering still from colonization, and what that means in this case in particular is that so much has been lost. This is not the kind of knowledge that is just all there, just already intact, and just go talk to your local elder and they know it all. It's not the case at all. And what is the reality is that there's pieces, and many people, different people in different locations might hold a piece of the story. And so our work is trying to remember and revitalize, sort of regrow that indigenous knowledge, starting with our own communities, Ojibwe and Dakota Lakota here. So on this slide, you see a lot of our team members. It's sort of an ongoing, evolving community. Just in case you're not from Minnesota, this is where we are, Minnesota Makoche, the land where the sky reflects the water. In the red here, Midwest in the north. And in Minnesota, Minnesota Makoche, we've got both Ojibwe and Dakota reserves. More in the north and central are the Ojibwe and the Dakota in the south. So what I wanted to show you are some of our resources, because really that's our foundational work is, I would say, two-part. Creating resources and creating community, getting those resources into community. This is work that is very interdisciplinary. We could say indigenous STEM or interdisciplinary STEM. We're doing science and culture and art. And this is really a big act to fill, because it's hard enough just to do one and do it well. But what we're talking about is building a system where it's at the very least, a dual learning system where we can have the voice of science and all the amazing stories and ideas and facts that are told from that culture of science, but also from our Native perspective, and hold and value both. So in 2012, our foundational work, we had funding for a long time from Minnesota Space Grant, NASA, and we were doing educator workshops in the summer. And so in 2012, it occurred to us that we needed to have a star map in order to be able to talk about the native stars. So we have Ojibwe, Gisik, Anung, Masinagan. And this is this map is both an artistic and an astronomically accurate rendering of the year-round night sky. So this was painted by myself and William Wilson, and led by the hard work and research of Carl Gawboy. Also, I painted the Dakota Lakota star map, Makoche Wichankpe Wawape, to go with the Ojibwe one for our very first educator and community workshop in 2012. Here's our workshop poster. And I also like to show you that in Minnesota, the state science standards, K through 12, are asking the teachers to present how other cultures have participated in science. And in particular, one of the benchmarks here says Ojibwe and Dakota knowledge and use of patterns in the stars to predict and plan. And this is fantastic and very forward thinking. And yet at the same time, in 2009, there were very, very few resources available. So it just so happened we did not know about these standards, and the teachers and educators were extremely excited to get our resources and training in our workshops. So after the maps, guidebooks that have more detailed explanations of the native star knowledge, and also the astronomical Western science treasures in the night sky too. Then from there, planispheres, more resources for everyone to use, a workbook, a curriculum workbook. So this is in its final draft stage. It should be out on Amazon within a month, I would say. Our work is also on Stellarium, as you can see in the center handout. So in 2015, we were contacted by a representative, an elder of the Innu, which is the Cree Nation, a fellow by the name of Wilfred Buck, doing amazing work up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. He gave us tobacco and asked us to paint a map like ours, but with their Innu constellations. And he had been doing similar work like Carl, working with community and elders, collecting stories, going out all around Canada, northern Canada, for many years. So this is the beautiful Innu star map, Innu Achakos Masinakan. And then just to have that common ground for everyone, I went ahead and painted a Greek version of the star map, Greek in quotes, to begin to give a nod to the really complexity that we think of this as the mainstream constellations or star map from the Greek tradition, but much of it was borrowed from present-day Babylonia and some from the Egyptian culture as well. Okay, so from there we have the Ojibwe moons, and Carl was going to say something about specifically the Ojibwe moons.
Yes, and every language program in Minnesota, every Ojibwe language from Head Start all the way to graduate school, use a calendar that's very similar to this. If you look at all these different calendars, they are different from each other. And they're different because the Ojibwe country is a very big country. It's about 500 miles wide by 2,000 miles long. And that means that the environment is different. When different crops ripen in the forest, when certain activities are done, it's slightly different as you move further north. So that the calendar, based upon what's done during a certain month, for example, the maple sap boiling moon that you see here, it varies a little bit from March till the end of April, depending on where you live. So that means that every calendar is going to be just a slightly different. Now, this was put together by language teachers, and the language teachers in each region had to determine what activity would be designated by their calendar. So it varies a little bit. It's not absolutely consistent from one end of Ojibwe country to the other. They also have, and I suspect that if you go back far enough, the moon calendar is going to be dependent on three things. One is the environment. For example, on this calendar, you can see midsummer moon, and you can see leaves change in color moon, and the falling leaves moon. This is a reflection of the environment that would be designated by the moon. The other one is the hunting and gathering activities, And you could fill up the whole calendar just designating things that would be hunted and gathered. And there's the blueberry moon and the strawberry moon in some calendars. You see that listed here for June. And then the third activity would be referring to ceremonial or symbolic. For example, in here, in this calendar, we have the midsummer moon, for example, which suggests timekeeping. There was probably more, for example, in the Great Spirit moon, referring to ceremonial life. Now, so basically what I'm saying here is that there's a great deal of work that needs to be done to find out the three sets of calendars and what they mean. It's going to be still work that has to be put together. I should mention here that probably the earliest calendar that I've seen in written form was put together in 1924. This was from Francis Densmore, who interviewed elders that were born in the 1870s. This means then that this calendar in its written form goes back almost 100 years, 100 years worth of research.
Great. So Jeff, you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to just add that a lot of these activities are still going on. Myself, every fall we get ready for the racing, and it's a big community event. Families get together and come together, and we still go out racing and doing these things, and or the netting and spearing in the spring. You know, so these are things that a lot of things we've forgotten a lot of things, and we've lost a lot of things, but there's still cultural and ceremonial things, like Annette was saying, that we're gathering the pieces. The language is really important, and we're trying to revitalize our language. So people are still working on this, and it's still something that is very important. And I like to always say, when I did realize that the constellations up in the sky were Ojibwe constellations, for some reason I'd always assumed that, and I was taught that it was just Greek constellations. But when I made that mind shift, that no, those stars and constellations up there are Ojibwe, you know, it really did something for my, I guess, my soul, and it made this world a lot bigger and smaller at the same time. You know, it's just, and I see that happening in our communities when we do the workshops, when we do the art workshops, and the community and the people really respond well, and they get empowered by just knowing this stuff. So it's a long process, but we're all working hard at it.
Great.
One of the things that you're exactly right is that notice that the translation here is January, February, March. It's trying to fit a moon calendar into the Julian calendar, which is essentially a solar calendar. Mm-hmm. So what we want to do sometime is have a lunar calendar that's a lunar calendar that stands by itself. We don't need to translate it and try to fit it into a Julian calendar, because full moons don't fit into the Julian calendar. The solstices and equinox do, but not the moon. So the moons actually slip a little bit if you notice the full moon on your calendar that's hanging on your wall. The moons slide forward. Each full moon slides forward a couple of days. We can work out a moon calendar without having to translate to the Julian calendar.
Okay, so Bonnie, could we play a little bit of the video clip, or do you want to go right to Q&A and then work in the video clip later in the discussion?
No, I think the video would be great. If you want to stop sharing, is that your last slide?
No, we have some more, but I want to use the time for discussion.
Okay.
And we don't have to play the whole video. We could just play the first minute or, you know, just the first part just to give people the flavor.
Okay, great. So if you'll stop sharing.
Yep.
We'll go into some of that.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we're share the video. Yeah, we're ready.
Getchi Manitou Jesus. Getchi Manitou Jesus. Great Spirit Moon. Name Bani Jesus. Name Bani Jesus. Suckerfish Moon. Oh na Bani Jesus. Oh na Bani Jesus. Hard crust on the snow moon. Eske Gamizi Jesus. Eske Gamizi Jesus. Zabapaga Jesus. Zabapaga Jesus. Budding moon.
There we go. Thank you. That's beautiful. Is that you narrating, Annette?
Yeah. Someone else was supposed to do the Ojibwe part and they became sick, so I had to cover. But that is my heart beating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And that's available on Vimeo, so if people want to download it in the higher resolution version, that's great.
Okay, so that was one question I had before we go any further. Tell us again where that's available. And I also wanted to talk about, you said that some of this was available on Stellarium. So talk about both of those if you could.
Sure. So the easiest place is probably nativeskywatchers.com. And I kind of put everything there under the resources, educator resources. And so there's tons of stuff, including these videos. But I didn't actually upload it yet. So right now it's on Vimeo on the link that I sent you. So there's multiple ways to grab it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think everybody has the link. So can you just spell out, how long is the link?
Oh, I'd have to send it. I have no idea what it is because I just uploaded it last night.
Oh, okay, I see. Oh, thank you. I get it.
It'll be on the nativeskywatchers.com. I'll make sure to do that.
That's what I was getting to, right? Because there's an audience watching that we can't even see, in addition to the people who are going to chat with us. So yes, I do have the link. So I have the link. Sorry, everybody else. But if you search on Vimeo, which is Vimeo, you'll be able to find it there, is what you're saying, Annette, right?
Yeah, and starting tomorrow, you'll be able to find it on our website, nativeskywatchers.com, which not just the videos, but a lot of other resources are available. Like, for example, the maps. You can download a PDF of the map.
Yes.
And the second thing on Stellarium, so I worked with George out of Vienna last summer in 2016. And I was able to upload both the Ojibwe and the Dakota constellation star maps onto Stellarium. So you just go into Stellarium, free download, and then you go into cultures, and then you click on Ojibwe or Dakota, and you can, they're beautiful images on the sky field for free.
Right. That's awesome. And that's wonderful because that could be a challenge to getting this information out. So I'm delighted that that doesn't have to be a barrier. Wonderful. And I don't know how well you can see. Let's see, I'll make Caroline's screen larger. But off to the side over there, over Caroline's right shoulder, is one of the maps that I was lucky enough to get when I was out racing last year at Fond du Lac. And so I've shared some of that, and that's where that one came from. That's up on Caroline's desk.
Great.
So, so I have other thoughts too, but I don't want to hog all the questions here. So I'm going to stop for a minute. First, let me say, I know, Annette, you said you had a few more slides, but I would like to get some comment here and then maybe go back and share the slides in just a little bit. So is there anyone who's, I think we have something on the chat, so Caroline, I'll come to you in a minute. But first, Diana, Elena, Janice, Stacy, and we'll just use, classroom style, just raise your hand, and, that way we won't be talking over each other. Okay, Diana, do you want to go ahead and start with a comment or a question?
Okay, so thank you. That was such an interesting presentation. I wanted to ask, since you don't connect to a solar calendar, or you're working to disconnect from a solar calendar, or Julian calendar, excuse me, does that mean that you have more than 12 moons?
Yeah, thanks, Diana. I was going to say that in many Native communities, it's common to say 13 moons. Many Native people, maybe all Indigenous people, have 13 moons. So here's an example of the 13 significance. Can you guys see that? It's later in the video, but on a turtle, on the back of the shell, there are 13 large sections. And this is an important connection because of two things. See, the 13 moons were noticed by the Indigenous people, let's say by Ojibwe, and used in the calendars for the month. So on the version we showed you, we only had 12, but there really were 13. And just to set the record straight, see, if the Earth is going around the sun 365 days, right? And that keeps in sync with the seasons. But if you use the moon takes 29.5 days to return to the same place in the sky. So if you take 12 of those, 12 times 29.5, you get too few days. If you do 13 times 29.5, the moon cycle, you get too many days. So it's a kind of a tricky thing. You have to add the 13th moon one time every 2 or 3 years, or else your moon calendar, the lunar calendar, will shift away from the seasons. So many cultures like Islamic, I believe Tibetan, Hindu, they have a true lunar calendar still going on right now, but it's totally separated from the seasons. It's just its own lunar calendar. But what we're talking about then from the Native perspective, the calendar was in sync with the seasons, and they knew when to add the 13th, the extra moon. Okay, so let's go back to the turtle. There's 13 sections on the turtle's back, and this is important because many tribes, North American tribes, call North America Turtle Island. And there are many important stories about the significance, cultural significance of the turtle. And it turns out, this is a really important connection, yes, that we know that there were some of the largest ever living sea turtles that lived right here, the fossils. Our tools of science have showed us that there are these giant 5,000-pound sea turtles as big as a bus that lived right here in North America. So it's this beautiful example of where the science information, the archaeology, paleontology, parallels what the native knowledge has told us, Turtle Island, and then again overlapping with the idea of 13 moons.
Along with many of our own creation stories and flood stories, which is really common in a lot of Native tribes, the flood stories, and how the turtle helped us to create this island that we live on. And so that's another reason it's really important and referred to a lot. So, and kind of not only in Anishinaabe, but other cultures. So.
In fact, we wanted to ask the other viewers, Janice, Stacy, Elena from other places, if you're familiar with the tribes around in your region with the 13, having the 13 moons as well. We thought this would be a good opportunity because we're, you know, we've been working on this and we want to make those connections with the broader community.
Well, while people are unmuting, Annette, I will say that I mentioned I was out in Seattle. I was actually in Bellingham at Northwest Indian College. And they had the 13 moons. And I was thinking that same question when I saw your chart, because I'm like, I just saw this. And I was so excited to see the poster of the 13 moons because I thought, Annette's going to tell us all about this today. So yes, very familiar. That is exactly what they had there and a great explanation with it. So I'm sure that I'll share this broadcast with them as well. I'm sure that will be interesting. In fact, I think there's some viewers watching from Northwest Indian College. So hello to you, Terry, and your class. I believe they're watching today. So over in their building where the cafeteria is, they have a 13 moon calendar. So anyone else? Let's see, Janice or Elena, or maybe those at Turtle Mountain. Any thoughts on the 13 moons?
This is Elena. I'm not familiar with the 13 moons, but I'm excited about, you know, how it connects with the seasonal calendar, and that falls into, you know, studying what is happening in our environment now, whether these moons happen, you know, the seasonality of different events are still happening at the same time as what has been used by the indigenous people. And they are also noticing that, and so they're curious about it. And so this is where actually another point of blending or braiding in indigenous knowledge and Western science of monitoring what's happening in the environment. So I'm, you know, it's beautiful. Thank you for the calendars, and it's very useful for a lot of the people we're trying to reach.
Yeah, thank you, Elena. That was a thought that I had when I saw like ricing moon. I know we were ricing at Fond du Lac when I was there in September, and that's certainly shortly after August. But you know, our events occurring at different times than what that calendar would reflect. What if budding is now starting earlier because we are seeing a bud burst that's moving earlier? So I was wondering about that too.
It's happening earlier.
Okay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, maple sugaring is happening earlier and earlier. There's lots of people who are noticing these things and are concerned about it.
And you know, what is the effect of climate change and everything on Native communities? So we noticed that with racing and maple syrup, like Carl mentioned. You know, coming faster and stopping earlier and different things. So
one of the concerns too is with the monoman, the wild rice being a sacred plant and all, it's declining in the local lakes. So there's, I know that Andy Wold here at Fond du Lac with Courtney, they were working on looking at some of the causes of, you know, what, is it pollutants, is it agricultural runoff, sulfates from the mining here, and using NASA resources and funding to research this and to really come up with solutions that would mean a lot to the community here.
And what they do also, really, they're bringing in young people, students to help work on some of that stuff. So the initiating the STEM ideals and career paths for young. A lot of them are Native, but some aren't also. So just for all the young people to get them involved and realize that there's things going on, you know, around them that they need to be concerned about. So, and then when we bring the Anishinaabe worldview and things that Native people have known for centuries, you know, and it just reaffirms that it is important, and the people are important, and relearning and learning these things are really important.
Yeah, that really is, and I thank you, Annette, for bringing up the work that Courtney's doing. That is the work that she's doing with the funding that came from UREP. And more information about that can be found on the GWOW website. So if you just look up GWOW, Fond du Lac, you'll find it. I find it's easier to tell you where to Google things than to give you the URLs nowadays. And you're right, that Jeff, that she's involving young children also. Courtney is doing weekend camps where the children are coming in and experiencing the work that they can do and how they can be a part of this study of the environment. So yeah, it is wonderful. And Elena, I know you're experiencing that environmental change there, so that was a good point about, how things are changing. Yeah. Janice or Stacy, did either of you have anything you wanted to ask, add, comment on? Oops, it's okay if you don't. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. If not, we'll go over to Caroline because I see that there is at least one chat, but I'm not looking at it because it'll mess up my screen. So Caroline, I'm going to turn it over to you to share that.
Hello, everybody. So we actually, Bonnie, I think you're looking at the Hangout chat. We didn't have a chat, but right when you said that, Oscar just sent in a chat. So let me read it real quick.
Awesome. I was hoping that Oscar was going to write us some questions. Hi, Oscar.
Yeah. So let me read this real quick. It says, thank you for everything you do to preserve culture and language. What advice would you give to inspire others to interweave language and STEM? Your take on citizen science and the language. So I think that's a question for our presenters or anybody else on the Google Hangout.
Thank you, Caroline. And I'll share a little background on Oscar's question. Oscar is working at a Salish language immersion school, bringing back the Salish language. So I'll frame his question in that context. So any comments on that?
Well, for my community, I know that when we first brought Native Skywatchers out and we had at a community center, we had a small presentation and the people were just overwhelmed. And I think it reconnects them to the things that they're familiar with. They might not even know they're familiar with them. Like I referenced the stars and the constellations and always having this kind of mystery about them. Well, in doing this kind of work, it just reconnected myself to know that, we do have a place. This place is our place. Because the stars are just as much ours as they are the Greeks or whatever else. And it's just empowering. It really does change a community. And when you start talking, we have a lot of language loss at our community, like I mentioned. And just trying to reintroduce whatever you know, whatever you can. I mean, even for myself, I'm not really knowledgeable a lot, but I'm trying to learn. And my language teacher always said, whatever you know, even if it's a little bit, be proud to say whatever you can. And to get out there and just put yourself out there a little bit. Do it in a good, fun way, without any kind of shaming or whatever, to be gentle with people and just to share what you know. And it really seems to take off a lot. And I know my community has really benefited with the Native Skywatchers and myself. It's enriched my life, just knowing that a piece of the sky is mine. And I found my place on Earth with knowing that.
So I want to add that the question, as I understood it, had to do with how to weave together the language with the culture, with the STEM. And I think the important point is that the scientific method is rooted in observation. Here's the chaos of the world around us, the philosophy of nature, physics, and looking for those patterns. And then first observation, and then looking for patterns, and then being able to make predictions from those patterns. Native people did this and still are traditionally. And it's seen in this moon calendar, the keen observation. And let me give you an example specifically. I think what I'm saying here is that no matter how much is lost, if possible, try to bring in first language speakers into this work, because the language itself is a source of information, much like the night sky is a source when we aim our telescope to this pinpoint of light in the sky. Specifically, I can tell you, one of our team members, William Wilson, is a first language Ojibwe speaker. So he shared with me that this month, May, which is Zababaga, it's translated budding moon. But what it really means in Ojibwe, for someone who's a first language speaker, it means the moment when the bud first opens up and the fresh green leaf emerges. It's a birthing of that green leaf, the birthing moment. You see, so there's this whole very keen insight, observational, poetic, what's going on, the story being told in that one word. And that's what's lost when we lose the language and when we lose the elders that know the language to that degree, because it's simply translated by the dictionary, budding. Do you see the difference?
Wow. Very well said, Annette. Yes, I don't mean to interrupt you, Carl. I apologize, but that was a beautiful example.
Love Zababaga. When I found that out, I'm telling everybody. And that's just one example. Carl, you were going to say something.
Yeah, we could go on and talk about the words referring to animals or referring to trees that are, and animals specifically, the possibilities that you could use Ojibwe language with zoology is just a powerful, powerful idea. For every Ojibwe word, that it means something than just simply a direct translation. Jeff and I were just talking earlier about the fisher. Like Annette was saying, to go into the definition of the word, it means he runs along the shore. Now, in most Ojibwe English dictionaries, you just simply have the word fisher. And of course, the fisher animal that lives in our North Woods here doesn't have anything to do with fish. The fisher doesn't even like fish. The reason why it's called the fisher is because European colonists saw this animal in the woods and thought it was something like a mustelid that appears in England that actually catches fish, like a mink. But a fisher actually hunts well on shore, eats primarily varying hares. And so when you start examining that word and what it means, what the fisher actually does, it gets layers and layers of meaning. Just as Annette was talking about, this wonderful moment when the buds burst. You have a fisher that lives in the woods that does something. And the explanation, the translation into Ojibwe gives you all kinds of insights into what this animal does. So it's how you can use Ojibwe culture and Ojibwe language to actually explain the environment of our part of the world here. It can be a very important tool.
Bring in the elders.
Yes, that's right.
The elders have a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, and just to get at what this word means, rather than just translating it to the word fisher, which has nothing to do with the animal that you're talking about.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is not only can it be an incomplete, as Annette described, right? Not just there's a problem that it can be just an incomplete in translation word, but it can also be an absolute misconception or misinformation about the word. Yeah. So
exactly, and some words aren't even in the dictionary at all as well. So.
Right. So Oscar, kudos to you. Thank you for the question, first of all, for opening that piece up, and thank you for the work that you're doing with the bringing back the native language. It's a very important part. So I want to go over, we've talked a lot about turtles and Turtle Mountains Connected. Stacy, I know you shared some really interesting information about turtles with us. If you don't want to share right now, that's fine, but I do want to give you the chance to do that before we switch over and I share some of the information about getting those lunar samples. So just let me know if you'd like to share anything, Stacy. You can even have the students shake their heads because I can see them. Okay.
I have to unmute.
Yeah, and I know we have to do this unmuting and muting, you know, but it's worth it. All right, well, and if, oh, there they go. I think, hi.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity. We're all just sitting here like, oh, we're shy. Thank you.
I had a little trouble hearing you. No, now I can hear you. Yeah.
We're being shy.
Okay. All right. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. All right. So then I want to go into sharing a couple of pieces of information. And by the way, there was something I forgot to mention. This event was listed as being an hour from 2 to 3, but we have always extended it to an hour and 15 minutes. And we just neglected to put that out when we put all the different time zones in there. We were trying to make sure everybody knew when it was in their time zone. But it is scheduled to be a 75-minute event because so much of the time is very importantly spent on dialogue. So we're not really planning to end in 5 minutes. If you need to go, you can go. There will be a recording, and Caroline will cover that at the end. But I wanted to let you know that we're not planning to end in about 5 minutes. So I think what we'll do is, I'm deciding, Annette, how many more slides do you have, and do you want to go back and share the rest of your piece before I share the information about the rocks, the lunar samples? Let me know your thoughts there.
I was going to mention some of our interdisciplinary art emphasis.
Let's do that.
Workshop. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, so go ahead and share your slides again. I think that'll make more sense, and then we'll put the lunar samples in at the end. Okay.
Can you see the Ojibwe moons, the table?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, I'll just advance ahead then.
Yep.
These are the Lakota moons. And you can see that some of them are similar. Like look at June, strawberry ripening, moon of good berries. And if you go back to the Ojibwe, strawberry moon. So some are similar, just we're in the same geographical area, with the Dakota being just a little bit further to the south in Minnesota, and then Lakota over in North and South Dakota. But some are very different. Let's say, like if you have the deer antler shedding moon for December, November deer rutting moon. Yeah. One of my favorites is March, the sore eye moon. Do people have an idea why March would be sore eyes?
The reflection of the snow.
Yeah, the reflection. Look at March in the Ojibwe is hard crust on the snow moon. So even with this, you know, presumably oversimplified academic translation with what we have here on the table, hard crust on the snow, we can only imagine the more accurate, true, poetic version of the Ojibwe. But even that itself is a whole story to talk about. We did this, I'm teaching a science methods course for here at Fond du Lac with teachers, many Native teachers who are going to be teaching Native students. And, you know, the obvious question is, well, why is it called hard crust in the snow? And start to understand that and tell the story and the science of that crust on the snow. So for anyone who's not from these northern latitudes, in March, that's when the sun is getting higher in the sky, the days are getting longer. And so what happens is there's still snow, usually a nice snowpack, but the very top surface layer melts during the daytime and then refreezes at night. So it literally makes this very thin, hard crust. It's very shiny, thus the sore eyes, reflective, and it's very hard. And sometimes you'll even hear about breaking the snowshoes, again, on that hard crust. So also with our work with Wilford and Inanu, here's their version of their calendar. And I know he's doing a lot. He's just doing a lot of great work, grassroots work with the communities up there too. So just wanted to mention that. So recently we received 3 art grants, state art grants, and before that, it was mostly the NASA grants where we were doing science focused. So it's all interdisciplinary, but the science was the emphasis and the educators. This series of workshops and funding was really promoting the art piece of this interdisciplinary work. So we were doing a lot of art, hands-on workshops. So we would talk about the science, the art, and the culture, and we would do art. So here's some action shots. So here's some more action shots of our workshops. This was over a 2-year period. Did lots of workshops across the state. This is one of the workshops, my workshop called Our Moon Ourselves. And then another flyer on the left. Right now we have a traveling exhibit from both our professional artwork and also community art is traveling around the state. We're showing that work. So last but not least, here are a few examples of some of my work that relates directly to the moon, and these are celestial calendar paintings. So again, like the star maps, both astronomically accurate, a tool, but also delightful, I like to think, for the eyes to look at something that tells a story more than just maybe the typical map might tell. So you can see here, this is the phase of the moon, literally for every day of the year, 2017. And if we zoom in on this month, we can see the 4 main phases. So there's a lot of teaching here and significance with the 4 main phases. You could actually see maybe the small numbers between the main phases. And so the 8th is right here. So we're moving towards that 3rd quarter. That would be a waning gibbous. These are nice because you can also see this month here, July, we had 5 moons. Here's the one from 2016. I'll just go through these quickly. Close up on that one. That was the very first one. And here was another one in 2016, which really tells many layered stories about the connection with the moon, the circle, and water. Water is life there. The tides come into that as well. And the water beginning on our planet, the life beginning on our planet in the water, we think. Last but not least, here's one of my recent paintings having to do with the moon and the hummingbird. And this is the most ancient lunar calendar that was found. I think it's 30,000 BC, that calendar that was found on a bison bone over in Europe. Some close-up images and worksheets that we have created to go along with this lesson. These lessons, the video, and the last slide, Pidamia, Pilamia, Miigwech for listening. So I'll stop talking there, Bonnie.
Alrighty, and if you want to unshare, I don't know if I want you to unshare, though that is beautiful, but I do want to be able to see you when you're talking to people. But what beautiful artwork, yeah. So thank you. And again, all of these, the Skywatchers website is skywatchers.com, right?
NativeSkywatchers.com.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, NativeSkywatchers.com. Thank you for correcting me, getting me to get that exactly right.
I should point out the last one is Venus, and Venus is Ikwe-Anung in Ojibwe, the women's star.
Oh, neat.
Another show.
There we go. See, yeah, more back to the language. Okay, so I want to allow any comments, questions about that. And I see Caroline raising her hand. If there's more comments coming in, we'll take those also. Go ahead, Caroline.
Hello again. So our colleague from Goddard, Alex, has just commented on our YouTube Live. And he just wanted to share that yesterday, Winona LaDuke actually came and spoke at NASA Goddard. And she, in the beginning, walked them through these stages of the moon as the introduction to her discussion. So you just wanted to share that little input. Awesome that they got her to come speak.
That's awesome. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah.
That's all I've got right now as far as comments and questions. So.
Awesome. That's great. And I know we have, so if you're looking at my phone, I'm not talking on my phone. I'm not, but I am receiving some questions here too. So we're going to go over to Stacy first. And then Caroline, I think Terry may be texting in some more questions at Northwest Indian College. Okay, Stacy, go ahead.
Hey, Bonnie, can you hear me okay?
No, talk a little louder.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, that's better. The closer you get to the computer, probably the better. That's great.
One of the students wanted to share.
Nope, I'm not hearing you. I'm sorry. I want everybody to make sure we hear it. Let's see. What could it be?
I'm pretty.
There we go.
How's this? Can you hear me?
Yeah, just talk loudly. And I could hear you fine earlier, so I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, better than that, we can see what you're sharing too. Go ahead, try that again.
Can you hear me? No. So,
oh, wow. And I see the turtle. Slide it all the way up first. I see the turtle at the top. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Is this from your curriculum at the college, Stacy? Yes. Wow. That's really neat. Yeah. And I know I'll share a little bit because I know when we were there, we had Caroline and I had the opportunity to visit with Stacy this summer, early spring, I guess it was. And Stacy was telling us about just how many turtles there are. So, you know, I was thinking of that when Jeff was talking about this being Turtle Island. You know, that Turtle Mountain is just one part of Turtle Island, you know, and we did see some turtles while we were there and had never thought about the 13 parts on their back and things like that. So it's really interesting to think how all those pieces tie together. Stacy, that's a really cool document. That's neat and very parallel to what Annette was sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think Caroline's raising her hand again.
I was just going to say, for anybody who's having trouble with us hearing you, Stacy, since you're in the Google Hangout, there's a chat feature. Just letting you know if you wanted to type something in more specific. But
oh, thank you.
Just wanted to
add, for any community, I think if you just throw some flyers together, just announcing a get-together to talk about star knowledge, moon knowledge, anything like that, and you get the people together to come, have a little bit of food ready for them, and just get together and start talking about it. And I'm sure it'll just snowball from there.
Yeah.
Northern Minnesota term. It'll snowball. It'll just snowballing. So I think we've seen that around our community, and I think it helps the elders realize their importance, and it helps the young people to realize that there's more to what's going on than what they see on TV or what they're taught in mainstream schools. So.
Right. Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Carl was going to say something too.
Okay.
Yes, when Annette asked about a series of paintings that I did about 15 years ago, I did a series of 13 paintings of the Ojibwe moons, and I sold them all. I never took a picture of one, so I don't have any photographs that I could show you. I did bring 2 of the originals over. I'm not sure if you can all see those. They have to go up close to the screen.
Yeah.
And so this was that one was the one that you usually find in February or March, and it's called the sucker spearing moon on most Ojibwe calendars, but you can't spear the suckers, so I think it's a mistranslation, and it was an eel pout that actually runs, and you can spear them in open rivers at that time. But I'm going to go around and tell elders that they're wrong. So this, in order to actually use this picture, I'm going to have to do some very careful negotiation. But I believe that month refers to the eel pout, not to the sucker. But here's the other one, which is the moon of the opening.
South Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And these are the only two that I have left. So I know what I'm going to be doing in the next couple of months is I'm going to do this whole series all over again. And hopefully Annette will put them to use in more as we do more of the Ojibwe moon educational units.
Right.
So anyway, that's what I do. And unfortunately, the darn things all got sold. Who knows where they are today? I can't get them back to actually put them together for a digital photo setup.
Well, that's true, right? And it's very possible they're being put to great use somewhere where someone's using them as a teaching tool or sharing information about them, right? So that's great. Yeah. And you know, I'm going to use part of that as a segue because I do want to share some pieces about NASA resources with you. And I was thinking, Jeff, when you were talking about having events, you know, and having a community event. And the whole reason that we're focusing on the moon for this month is because NASA just had a big event, which could have been a focal point for a larger cultural event. You know, I think it's beautiful to blend or braid. I like the way Elena always says that, to braid the indigenous knowledge and the Western science. You know, they're definitely related, but we Western scientists are relatively new at this, right? Maybe 400 years. So it's wonderful to braid that with the indigenous knowledge from thousands of years. So the event that just happened, let's see if I can share here. All right, so the event that just happened was the International Observe the Moon Night. Certainly not the only night you can observe the moon, but acknowledging that there is a night to observe the moon is a great focus for an event. So that just happened. I hope that many of you participated in International Observe the Moon Night and continue to find ways to incorporate this. Maybe it's a monthly event that you have where it's a time to bring people together and talk about that month's moon and things like that. So that was one of the pieces. And as I said, the reason we were having this event. And then I also wanted to share the website where you can learn about borrowing samples from the moon. NASA actually went to the moon. It's not a myth. It really happened. And there were samples brought back by the Apollo missions, tons of lunar sample material. And you can get those samples. They're in discs. Let's see, I don't know if you can see this right here, but there are sample discs that can be borrowed by K-12 teachers in classrooms. They can also be borrowed by college professors to use in college settings. They come to you in these pouches here to protect them. But you do need to go through a training program and things like that to be able to borrow them. So you'll want to check that out. And this is the Lunar and Planetary website, but again, rather than give you URLs, if you just Google the Lunar and Meteorite Sample Disc Program, it'll get you right to this page, and you can find out how to borrow those samples. It does tell you, I'll click on one page here, it does tell you that you have to be trained, and it tells you a list of all the people who are trained to provide those workshops. So you'll have to find out which center you live near, and then you'll be able to contact, the emails are right here, and you'll be able to contact the people to get more information about that. So I wanted to show those two pieces to you. And then for little ones, I also wanted to share the Space Place website. If you've never been to Space Place, you are missing out because there are wonderful fun activities to engage young children in learning. And so this one here that I'm highlighting is about the craters on the moon, but I want to flip down to the bottom here, if we could, because there's a great activity here on teaching phases of the moon with Oreos. And certainly food is not always a good idea, but when it is, Oreos make a great teaching tool for teaching about the phases of the moon. So that's the Space Place website right there. And then I'll switch over to Caroline. You're going to show our ESTEEM website, which is part of the Main C program. Let me stop sharing first and then bring Caroline up. There we go.
Hi.
So that you'll know where to find our recording too, the recording of this session. Go ahead, Caroline.
Okay. Let me share my screen real quick. Can you see that? You guys see the ESTEEM site?
Yes, sorry, I was muted, but I see
Oh,
it.
okay. Okay, great. Good to know. Okay, so I'm going to make it pretty quick here. We will provide this. The website is pretty easy to remember, though. It's www.nasa.gov/ESTEEM. At the top, you see it says /education ESTEEM, but you actually don't need the education. So it's just nasa.gov/ESTEEM, and that will take you to our website. So you can go there on your own time and learn everything that you want to about us. I know that Bonnie, I think, said what the acronym stands for in the beginning, but I'll just say it one more time. You can find that here in About ESTEEM. And it stands for NASA Earth Systems, Technology, and Energy Education from Europe. Europe is the important thing there. We are funded through Europe, and it is the Minority University Research and Education Program. So what we focus on is working with tribal colleges and universities. I'm going to go back to the home screen and show you a few of the, well, almost all of the tribal colleges and universities that we work with. We have one new one that's not on here right now, but we'll be adding them soon. So as you can see, we're working with Turtle Mountain Community College, who's actually in the Google Hangout with us today. So hello again to Stacy and her students. We're also working with Salish Kootenai College, the College of Menominee Nation, and Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College, who we also have Annette, who is joining us from Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College. Our newest awardee is Northwest Indian Tribal and Community College. And you can see them right over here all the way in the West Coast. And Bonnie just got back from actually visiting with them. We'll go back. I told you I'd make this quick, and I'm going to try and keep my promise. I wanted to highlight this tile. This is our tile. If you click on Earth Science Resources, it will take you to a long page full of everything you would want to, many different types of STEM fields. So we've got climate data, things to use in formal education. There are a ton of really awesome resources on this site, on this page on our site, that will give you some inspiration to use in your classrooms, workshops, community events, and so on and so forth. Back to the home page. And the most important thing I want to share with you on our website today is our Ask Us tile, which some of you hopefully are familiar with since we sent out the invite to this event. And it included this part of our website. So if you click that, it will take you to our virtual engagement page. And as you can see, this is the information about the event that we're currently doing. And we are going to be posting the recording of this event to this page on our website. So when you want to come back and send it out to somebody or just watch it yourself, you'll want to come to this page and you'll find the old Ask Us recordings right here. You click that and it will take you to a list of all of the Ask Us sessions that we have done over time. And there are quite a few, all the way down to 2013. We are experiencing, I'm just going to say this now, a quick note, we're experiencing some difficulties with a lot of the old ones, but our most recent one, the last one that we did, Exploring the Eclipse through a Native American perspective, is working, and the one that we are doing today should be available as well. So check back after the event today to find the link for that there. And that is my short and sweet ESTEEM website share for you guys. Stop sharing now.
Yep, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, and I would encourage you just ESTEEM. If you just Google NASA ESTEEM, you'll find it. Again, I find that, oops, let me go over here and highlight. Yeah, URLs can even change and things like that, but when you Google, it's a really easy way to find it. So if you just Google NASA ESTEEM, and the earth science piece is what might help you remember the ESTEEM part. So I think we'll stop there. I promised you 3:15. I hope you got some great resources to teach about indigenous ways of knowing the moon, and saw some great resources to get some moon samples and things like that. And Annette, I see you're raising your hand, so I'll come back to you real quickly.
One quick thing I wanted to add is that there is definitely a connection with the moon besides the seasons and the lunar calendar with women and women's medicine. And also I wanted to mention that there's a sort of a kind of protocol around the cultural or indigenous knowledge that is difficult to sum up in 30 seconds or 3 seconds. But basically, I think the idea is that traditionally a lot of this knowledge was protected or it was gained in different ways than Western science. And so you have to always be mindful of that. Maybe it came through ceremony, maybe it came through elders or visions. And so it's not always like people are not always very aggressive about sharing it. It's more protected knowledge. And so there's certain, it has to be like mindful and respectful of that. So just wanted to also mention that as well. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for that point as well. Right. And intentionally, a lot of it, as I've heard you and others explain too, is the oral traditions that are passed down. Right. And so we want to be respectful of that too. Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you. Yes. Go ahead, Caroline.
One very quick last thing to share from the chat, from the YouTube chat. We had someone watching who wanted to share that Winona LaDuke will be speaking at Johns Hopkins University tonight, and it will be live streamed. And if you go to Johns Hopkins University, just Google their website, you'll find that information to go ahead and watch the live stream, and that's going to be happening at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So just for anybody who's interested, something related. So
thank you.
Yeah,
okay, great. You. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, go ahead. I see Stacy raising her hand. Or were you waving goodbye? Okay, yes. Yes. Thank you. And I do want to be respectful of your time as well. Speaking of being respectful, I want to be respectful of your time as well. So I thank all of you for joining us. We'll end the live portion of the Hangout now, and we'll just stay connected for a few minutes to sum everything up. But thank you for those who were viewing virtually as well. And I do hope you'll check back to our website for the next Ask Us event, which will be coming up sometime in the very near future. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.